All right, we're going to get started with the Unit 1, Section 2 notes. In this section, we're going to talk about adding integers. And if you remember from last section, an integer is either a positive or a negative whole number. So if we think about our number line, I'm going to put 0 in the middle. My positive integers are to the right of 0. My negative integers are to the left of 0. So when we think about adding integers, if the integers have the same sign, we simply add the numbers and keep the sign the same. So for example, 4 plus 5, they're both positive and have the same sign, so we're just going to add them to get 9. If we have negative 4 plus negative 5, again, they have the same sign, they're both negative, so we're going to add them and keep our sign the same. So we'll have an answer of negative 9. So if we have different signs, for example, we have negative 7 plus 3, what we're going to do is we are going to subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value. So for example, 3 has a lesser absolute value from 7. So we're just going to say 7 minus 3, and we're going to get 4. We're then going to use the sign of the greater absolute value. So 7 is my greater absolute value, and it's negative. So my answer is simply negative 4. If you think about this on a number line, if you're starting at negative 7 and you add 3 to it, you will land at negative 4. Another example, negative 2 plus 8. They have different signs, so I'm going to subtract 8 minus 2 to get 6. Take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 8, and it's positive, so my answer is 6. Okay, another rule for adding integers, the sum of a number and its opposite is always 0. So negative 2 plus 2 equals 0. Negative 7 plus 7 equals 0. All right, we're going to practice with a few examples using the rules above. So in the first one, we have negative 51 plus negative 23. They're both negative, so we know our answer is going to be negative. If you add 51 and 23, you'll get 74, so your answer is negative 74. In number 2, I noticed that I have different signs. So we need to subtract 29 from 48, which is 19. The greater absolute value is 48, it's negative, so my answer is negative 19. Again, negative 15 plus 27, we have opposite signs, so I need to subtract. 27 minus 15 is 12. Look which one's greater. 27 has a greater absolute value, so you know your answer is going to be positive. Number 4, again, we have opposite signs. So 91 minus 26 is 65. 91 is a greater absolute value, so my answer is positive. Negative 41 plus 30. Opposite sign, subtract to get 11. Negative 41 is your greater absolute value. It's negative, so your answer is negative 11. Negative 21 plus negative 34, they are both negative, so my answer is going to be negative, and I'm simply going to add those two together to get 55, giving me a total of negative 55. All right, so in this section, we are adding more than 2 integers, and I like to do this simply by working left to right, just like you would read a book. So negative 9 plus 12 is going to be positive 3. Again, opposite signs, subtract, take the sign of the larger, which is 12. 3 plus negative 4. I have opposite signs, subtract to get 1. Take the sign of the larger, which is negative, so my answer is negative 1. Negative 22 plus negative 13, they have the same signs. My answer is negative 35 plus 6. Subtract, take the sign of the larger, 29, negative. 55 plus negative 26 plus 47. I'm going to have you try that one on your own, but again, if you have any questions, please be sure and ask your teacher. All right, number 4 and 5 at the top, we're doing the exact same thing. So negative 5 plus 4 is going to be negative 1 plus negative 5 plus 3. Negative 1 plus negative 5 is negative 6 plus 3, which then we have opposite signs. Subtract and take the sign of the larger. My answer is negative 3. Alrighty, I'm going to leave number 5 for you to try, and I'm going to jump down to where we are going to evaluate a few expressions. So it says evaluate the expression when x equals negative 8 and y equals negative 5. Wherever I see an x, I'm going to plug in a negative 8, and wherever I see a y, I'm going to plug in a negative 5. So my first one would be negative 8 plus 15. I have opposite signs. Subtract, take the sign of the larger. My answer is positive 7. Negative 19 plus y equals negative 5. So negative 19 plus negative 5 equals negative 24. Last but not least, I have negative 8 plus negative 5. I have the same sign and it's negative, so I simply add them and keep it. My answer is negative 13. I'm going to leave the last two for you to try as well. Remember, you're just going to plug in wherever you see an x and wherever you see a y. So this first one would be negative 35 plus negative 8 plus negative 5 plus negative 15. This one would be negative 8 plus negative 5 plus negative 8 plus negative 5. If you notice, in both problems, you have all negatives. Therefore, your answer in each one is going to be a negative number. I'll go ahead and help you with number 5. 8 plus 5 is 13, and then you have it again. So you have two sets of 13, which is in fact 26. All right, go ahead and make sure that you have tried those problems that I left for you to try. If you have any questions at all, please be sure and ask your teacher.